In a quaint town nestled between rolling hills and lush forests, there lived a pastor named Reverend James Whitaker. He was a man of deep faith, beloved by his large congregation, and known for his wisdom and compassion. His church was a beacon of hope, drawing people from near and far for guidance, comfort, and spiritual nourishment. Reverend James was not just a pastor but a devoted husband to his wife, Emily, and a loving father to their daughter, Grace. The Whitaker family was the epitome of happiness. Their home was filled with laughter, love, and the warmth that comes from shared faith. Emily was a supportive wife, always by her husband's side, managing the household and helping with church activities. Grace, their bright-eyed daughter, adored her parents and thrived in the nurturing environment they had created. Life was good, and Reverend James often thanked God for the blessings he had been given. As a pastor, James had a busy life, constantly attending to the needs of his congregation. People sought his counsel on all matters: marriage, grief, career, and personal dilemmas, and he was always ready with a listening ear and wise advice. He was fulfilled in his role, knowing that he was making a difference in the lives of others. However, the demands of his ministry sometimes kept him away from home for long hours. He trusted Emily completely, believing that she was as content as he was with their life together. One evening, as James was preparing his sermon for the upcoming Sunday, his phone rang. The voice on the other end was unfamiliar, gruff, and unsettling. "Pastor Whitaker," the man said, "your wife is not who you think she is." James felt a chill run down his spine. "Who is this?" he demanded, but the line went dead before he could get any answers. Shaken, he tried to dismiss the call as a prank or a mistake, but the words lingered in his mind, gnawing at the edges of his thoughts. As weeks passed, James noticed subtle changes in Emily. She seemed distant, often lost in her own world, and her usual warmth was replaced by a cold detachment. She started coming home late, sometimes missing Sunday services altogether, something she had never done before. James was so engrossed in his ministry that he failed to see the full extent of her withdrawal, convincing himself that she was just tired or stressed. One day, while at home, James asked Grace if she knew where her mother was. The little girl shook her head, her innocent eyes reflecting concern. James tried calling Emily's phone repeatedly, but there was no answer. When Emily finally returned early the next morning, she seemed flustered and offered a vague excuse about visiting a sick friend. Her behavior was strange, but James, not wanting to confront her, chose to believe her words. Months passed, and Emily's actions grew more erratic. She would leave the house without explanation, sometimes not returning until the next day. Large sums of money began disappearing from their joint account, and when James asked her about it, she brushed him off with flimsy excuses. The once strong bond between them was unraveling, and James felt helpless, unable to understand what was happening to his wife and their marriage. One afternoon, a member of his congregation, a woman named Martha, came to him for counseling. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "Pastor, I don't know how to say this, but I saw something disturbing. I was out of town last weekend, and I saw your wife with a younger man. They were going into a hotel together. I thought maybe it was a mistake, but then I saw them kissing." James's heart sank. He felt a wave of shame and disbelief wash over him. "Thank you for telling me, Martha," he said quietly. "I'll pray about it." That evening, James confronted Emily. His voice was steady, but his heart was breaking. "Emily, I need to know the truth. Martha told me she saw you with another man. Is it true?" Emily's eyes flashed with anger. "Martha is lying," she snapped. "She's jealous of me, jealous of us. She wants to take my place as your wife, James. Can't you see that?" James wanted to believe her, but doubt had taken root in his heart. He decided he needed to find out the truth for himself. One night, when Emily said she was going out, James followed her. He kept a safe distance as she drove out of town and stopped at a small, secluded hotel. James watched in disbelief as Emily met a young man in the parking lot, and together they walked into the hotel. His heart pounded in his chest as he followed them inside. When he saw them enter a room together, he could no longer contain his anger and sorrow. James confronted Emily in the hallway. "What are you doing, Emily?" he cried. "Why are you doing this to us?" For a moment, Emily looked shocked, caught in the act. But then her expression hardened. "I don't care anymore, James," she said coldly. "I can't stop. This is who I am now." With that, she turned away, leaving James standing alone, his world crumbling around him. In his despair, James decided to retreat to the mountains to seek God's guidance. He left Grace in the care of a trusted friend and spent 7 days fasting and praying, asking God for answers. On the last day, exhausted and broken, James had a dream. In the dream, he saw himself as a young man, handsome and full of potential. He remembered how wealthy older women had pursued him, offering him money in exchange for his company. At first, he had resisted, but the allure of wealth and the need to escape his poverty-stricken past eventually led him down a dark path. He had become involved with these women, taking their money and using it to build a better life for himself. But in doing so, he had destroyed the lives of others, their husbands, who had suffered in silence, their families, who had been torn apart by betrayal. When James awoke from the dream, he was overwhelmed with guilt. He realized that his past sins had never truly been forgiven, that the pain he had caused others was now being visited upon him. He wept bitterly, crying out to God for forgiveness, not just for himself, but for the homes he had destroyed. James returned home, his heart heavy but determined to make amends. He sought out Emily, pleading with her to forgive him for his past and to find a way to save their marriage. But Emily was too far gone, too entangled in her new life to care. She had become addicted to the thrill of her affairs, unable to stop even if she wanted to. One day, without warning, Emily emptied their joint account and left, taking her suitcase and abandoning James and Grace. James was devastated, but he knew that he had to be strong for his daughter. He turned to his faith, praying for strength and guidance, and slowly began to rebuild his life. In time, James found peace in knowing that he had faced his past and sought forgiveness. He focused on raising Grace, providing her with the love and support she needed to heal from the loss of her mother. The congregation rallied around him, offering their support and love. Reverend James Whitaker continued his ministry, now with a deeper understanding of the complexities of human nature and the consequences of sin. He used his experience to help others, teaching them about the power of forgiveness, redemption, and the importance of confronting one's past. His story became a testimony of faith, resilience, and the enduring power of God's grace.